Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video today. I will take you for a walk once again in this magnificent forest. So I want to talk a little bit about how to stay on high vibes, on high energy level, on high level of enthusiasm, maybe not so much motivated, but at least how to keep your focus on the journey when your life seems to work against you. Well, there are few things that helped me on my journey and are still helping me. Like, my life is not perfect, and currently it seems like I'm in a very transitioning phase, and I think many of you may feel like that, because these are just times like that when we're transitioning. Me and Maya are moving to a new place. We've just opened our fresh new store, AttractPassion.com. It took us a lot of work and effort behind it, and it just feels like we are transitioning right now. So sometimes when we move through certain kind of transitions in our lives, and these transitions are like, sometimes we made them by our own will, and sometimes it happens by itself, like life pushes us, right? And when these things happen, not always things just work out immediately how we would like. So we need to understand the process of change a little bit more. And then we need to understand also that life never works against us. Look, we are nature, we are part of nature, and in nature everything has its reason and everything has its timing. But what's interesting in nature is that, people often think that results should just find them, but in nature actually results happen as an exchange for an effort. So you need to give something to get something. You need to plant a seed if you want tree to grow. If you want any plant to grow, you need to plant a seed. And when you plant a seed, then each seed has kind of its own timing. And for example, in business, as I've started working on my business years ago, and when I was talking with many entrepreneurs, for example, many of them said it took me around 2 to 3 years that my business started really growing the way that I could support myself. So we start to see, well, in everything is a timing. If it comes to a spiritual evolution, there's timing, to understanding of your own darkness, because that's what spiritual evolution is, making a meaning out of your own shadow, out of your own dark side of you. Many people may at the beginning use certain spiritual philosophies to escape from their own pain, but eventually we recognize, well, the only way these philosophies truly serve us is to kind of enlighten our own darkness, to make a meaning out of what we feel, how we think, why we believe this certain way, or why we don't believe into ourselves at all, why we have these different ideas about ourselves, why we are lacking love and care and attention, most probably because of our childhoods, and what are our coping mechanisms, so we can deal with that. And that's all a spiritual journey then, to find out these things. So how can we stay on higher energy when it seems like life is really not going the way you would like? Well, firstly you need to recognize that sometimes what you would like is not what's the most preferable to you. And what you're experiencing is actually what you really need to experience to level up. But then it comes to our own ignorance. Like, are we really able to see what we are ignoring? Like, are we really able to notice that maybe we are sinking and we don't want to accept that? Because sometimes, our work or our life or our relationships or our job or our business or anything that means something to us at some point starts falling down, because that's how life works. You can't just grow, right? You can't just scale, right? So sometimes, we get to the point where everything starts falling, only so we step to the next level and we take a new approach. And this new approach usually introduces us to a whole new knowledge, a whole new understanding that leads us into a whole new way of how we choose to respond to what we are seeing. This is usually the challenging part, because we most of the time don't know what we don't know, and therefore we don't know what to do. So it's amazing to talk about this today, because today we have this new moon in the zodiac sign of Aquarius, which is often a sign associated with an open mind and open heart, to kind of shatter old perspectives, old perceptions, old paradigms, only so we can experience a new, fresh perspective, which can often be done if we actually listen to people with different perspectives, which is something rare in the society, where everyone just wants to fight with one another, and people like to be offended, and people like to kind of protect their own ideas, which is completely against the nature. I understand why people are doing that, because most probably all of us are doing it to a certain degree. But the art of living truly is the art of being able to open your mind from what you think you know to what you should know, which is being able to listen to other people with other perspectives. That's why I love to read books from people with completely different perspectives. So sometimes, when you have psychological issues, you can find answers in psychology, but maybe you could also find answers in entrepreneurship, or maybe you could also find answers from sports or athlete coaches. These different people from different segments and fields of life can offer you so much of knowledge that maybe you couldn't find in just certain type of literature, like maybe spiritual philosophies, which can be very helpful for you to ascend spiritually, but you're still a physical being, which means you can't escape your physical dimension. And also sometimes it may be hard to integrate spiritual philosophies if you don't have an advice for someone who's a master in a physical dimension. So different ideas are so important. And when we study different ideas, it can help us then to stay on higher energy, because we recognize we are not stuck. We just don't know what we don't know. This is a great I think it's a great approach, because we really don't know what we don't know, and we even don't know where to look at. So usually during this time you may be introduced to new people and new videos and new books, and you should just grab them and read them and listen to them, and then you will be challenged. Are you willing to use what you've learned? Are you willing to reflect on what you've read, what you've listened? Because reflection will lead you to understanding, and understanding will lead you to new action. And then you need to take action. But to take action, you need a plan, you need a vision, you need an idea where you're going, right? You can't get to what would be the most ideal reality for you if you're doing same things as you've done before. Usually psychologists use this as an explanation of insanity, when you expect different results for the same behaviors. So usually the point is that you pause yourself and you really consider to think about where you're going and from where these dreams are coming from. Are this really your dreams, or are these dreams from someone else you've heard on the internet? And it leads you to knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. Aristotle said, knowing who you are is the beginning of wisdom. Because if you're following the dreams of someone else, once you will reach them, you will feel as empty as you feel right now. Because you will notice, well, it was never your dream. It was a dream by someone else who's thriving living that dream. Your dream is something completely else. That's why it's so important to notice what is your dream, what is calling you, what you feel, inspired by, what inspires you, what gives you a feeling of living in spirit. I am in spirit. I live in spirit. What I'm doing, it gives me a sense that I am a spiritual being having a human experience. When you feel like that, you know you're doing something that is right. So that's the feeling you should look up for. Feeling like what you're doing makes you or reminds you that you truly are a spiritual being having a human experience. That's the feeling that makes you feel selfless, and that's the feeling that makes you feel like you want to share this with others. You want to be of service to others. You can't be of service to others if all you feel is pain, right? So if all you feel is pain can be a great motivator to make a change in your life. Like, again, psychologists would say to you, there are two types of motivation. One is pleasure, the second one is pain. And the question is what you feel right now and how to use it as a motivation. Like, for example, if you're let's say you're financially broke right now. And it's a cause of pain in your life. Well, if you don't do something about it, this pain will turn into a bigger pain, because you may start to think like you may lose a roof above your head, you may lose food that fuels your body, or whatever, and it will lead into a bigger pain until pain becomes so unbearable that you actually do something about it and you start looking for ways to make money, right? That's how pain becomes a motivation. And again, when you start to see pain as a motivation, it will raise your frequency, because suddenly you will feel enthusiastic about finding solutions. And then in finding solutions, you need to make sure that searching for solutions doesn't turn into entertainment, which happens to many people. People look for the information in books, in videos, in podcasts, and then they just consume that but don't change anything, which means pain stays the same, but their minds are more expanded. Their minds are more expanded, but their lives are not changing because they're not moving with the new knowledge, which means mind becomes overwhelmed and body still feels stuck, which means there comes a moment of separation between mind and body, which was done by your own will. And again, you need to return back to reflection, what you've learned that you should do but you're not doing, right? And that's where your intuition may start calling you back to change, like, this is what you should do. And fears will turn in, and fears will lower your energy, like, this is why you shouldn't do it. Fears will say to you, this is why you shouldn't do it. But then you need to be really wise. Really wise to learn how to identify a voice of fear and separate it from a voice of reason, which is another philosophical approach that can be really helpful for your life right now. Because you notice, well, if my reason says to me I should work on marketing, for example, then sitting at my home and not working on marketing means I must be afraid of something about marketing. So if I'm afraid of something related to marketing, then I need to find out what that fear is, and I need to identify it, so then I can shut it off and do what is necessary. So this is another approach for us to level up and to stay on higher frequency, because we recognize, well, if I'm operating out of fear, then I will always be controlled by my own shame. That will also obviously lead into guilt. And when I feel guilty because I'm not doing what I know that I could do, I will start to feel hopeless, because I will start to believe that I'm not capable of doing what I actually need to do. And when you feel hopeless, it's not the fact that you're hopeless. It's just the understanding that you believe that your fears are your dictators. But they are not. Your fears are not your dictators, my friends. Your fears are just this untrained parts of your personality. Those are the parts of you that require a breakthrough that you have never experienced. Like, for example, sometimes people say, I would like to start a YouTube channel, but I don't want to show my face. That's often what people say. But the question is always why you don't want to show your face. Your face is beautiful. Why you don't want to share this beauty with the world? And the answer is usually, well, because I'm afraid that people will judge me. Okay, so you're afraid of being judged. But what part of you is afraid of being judged? Like, what about you can be judged? And then you may notice, well, maybe I just don't feel good enough, and I'm afraid if people will say some negative words to myself, then my life will fall apart and I will really believe this criticism. Which means, okay, it truly means that you've never been exposed to criticism, and therefore any single negative word can completely destroy you. So it's like going into the gym for the first time in your life, and doesn't matter what kind of workout you will do, the next day you will feel pain through your whole body because your body is not used to working out. It's same with criticism and fear. So it's not the fact that you don't want to show your face. The fact is that you're just not used on the idea that maybe someone may say something negative about you. But you can't avoid it, because wherever you go, somebody most probably have a negative opinion about you. But most probably you will never hear it, because people just don't come at you and speak to you negative things, usually. Sometimes it happens. But sooner you decide to do it anyway, sooner you will free yourself, because even if you don't show your face to the world, people will still say something negative about you. Some people will say, oh, this guy is hiding from the world. Some people will say, why you don't show up your face? What's wrong with you? Some people will say all kinds of weird things, and it may still destroy you if you're not used to that. But on the other side, if you do that, you actually show people who you truly are. You actually remind people that bravery is something we can learn, because you've learned it. You've decided to actually show up to the world, to be kind of accountable, because you said, I will make a video, and then you've kind of recorded it. You've put yourself in front of the camera and you made a video. So it's already a sign that you found a sense of courage within you, which is already something to be inspired. Like, I would be inspired by that. If I would go maybe 8 years back into my past, where I was so afraid to share something like that, to show my face on the YouTube channel, maybe before I started doing that, I was most probably too shy, so I haven't started it before. Back at that time, I was inspired by anyone who was encouraged enough to show up like that. So you see, it's all about practice, it's all about skills. So every time you decide to become more skillful at anything, your energy will rise and you will stop caring so much about the things that are not going your way, because all that truly matters is that you're building up a character through which you can express your soul. And as long as you're doing that, life will be rewarding you for your efforts. Not when you want to see, but when you will need it the most. That's how nature works. In nature, everything has its own timing, the same as your soul has its own timing. You have your own timing. You don't know where it is because you're just not wise enough. But you don't need to know. You just need to make sure that you are doing your best at whatever you're doing. And when there comes a fear, it's only a sign, okay, this is something I'm not skillful enough yet. This is something maybe I'm not trained enough yet. But what if I, as the soul being, as the spiritual being, came here only to overcome all my insecurities, all my fears, all my dark aspects, to enlighten them with understanding, which is above all the main purpose of enlightenment, isn't it? Hey my friends, I hope you've enjoyed in today's video. I want to remind you that we've just opened a fresh new store called AttractPassion.com, where you can find all of my work, original paintings. You can find prints of all of my art in different sizes, so go there and check it out, AttractPassion.com. If you will use the code PASSION15, you will get 15 off onto your first order. So go there and check it out. And to anyone who would love to work with me one-on-one, I'm offering one-on-one coaching. We have some free spots once again. You can go and check out the link in the description of this video where you can find everything there. So go and check it out. If you would like to do something with the inspiration that you feel right now, it will help you so much to transform your life. I want you to do something with it. If you feel inspired, you have to do something with it. So my friends, till next time, one love.